Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. Chapter 6. The Life of a King. It was morning and Tom woke up in a big, beautiful bed in Westminster Palace. When he opened his eyes, he saw two gentlemen by the side of his bed.
"Your Majesty,"
said the first gentleman.
"It's 8 o'clock, Your Majesty,"
said the second gentleman. "What?" said Tom.
"Does Your Majesty wish to rise?"
asked the first gentleman. "Do you mean, do I want to get up?"
"Yes, Your Majesty."
"Yes, I do," said Tom. "Where are my clothes?" One gentleman brought Tom's underclothes into the room and gave them to a second gentleman, and the second gentleman gave them to a third gentleman, and the third gentleman helped Tom get into his underclothes. In this way, the gentleman dressed Tom in his expensive clothes. An hour later, he was ready. Tom went to another beautiful room to have breakfast. One servant brought the food into the room. He gave it to a second servant. The second servant gave it to a third servant, and the third servant put it on the table. A fourth servant put some food on Tom's plate. Two other servants stood behind Tom's chair and did nothing. The servants did everything for Tom. After breakfast, a servant said,
"Your Majesty, Lord Hertford wants to speak to you."
Lord Hertford came in and bowed.
"Is Your Majesty ready? The men are waiting in the council chamber."
Tom went to the council chamber and sat in the king's gold chair. Men came, bowed and kissed his hand and read from long pieces of paper. It was very boring, and it went on for hours. One man talked about money.
"There is no money, Your Majesty, because King Henry spent all of it. He built a lot of castles and wore expensive clothes and jewels. And his funeral was very expensive too. You have 1,000 servants and you must pay them."
Tom looked at the man and said, "We can live in a small house with only 10 servants. There is a nice house in the city near Pudding Lane." Lord Hertford took Tom's arm gently, and Tom stopped talking. Tom's face was red. "Oh, when will this end?" he thought. "I want to play ball or swim in the river." He had lunch in the great dining room, and the food was delicious. But he could not stop thinking about his friends and games at the river. After lunch, Tom went back to Prince Edward's room and sent everyone away. After a few minutes, a boy came in quietly. "Who are you?" asked Tom.
"Oh, Your Majesty is really ill,"
said the boy.
"I'm Humphrey Marlowe. I'm your whipping boy."
"My whipping boy?" cried Tom.
"Yes, Your Majesty.
Said the boy.
When you make mistakes during your Greek lesson, your teacher gets angry. But no one hits the Prince of Wales, so he hits me." That's my job. But now you're king, and perhaps you won't study Greek anymore. Then I'll lose my job and my family will be hungry. We'll live on the streets.
What? Tom looked at the boy and laughed loudly. Listen, Humphrey, I won't stop my studies, and I'll make a lot of mistakes. They'll pay you more than before, and you can work all your life.
Oh, thank you, Your Majesty. You're very kind.
Tom liked talking to Humphrey and learned a lot of things about Edward's life. Lord Hertford came for Tom and took him back to the council chamber.
You're feeling better, Your Majesty. I can see it. You remember more.
Said Lord Hertford.
Do you remember where the Great Seal is?
The Great Seal? Asked Tom. What's it like?
Oh dear,
Thought the Lord.
he's still not well.
When they reached the council chamber, Tom had to sign Edward's name on a lot of papers all afternoon. The king's job was not easy. It was a long, boring afternoon. In the evening, there was another royal dinner. And after that, Tom finally went to bed. My clothes are beautiful, and the palace is splendid, he thought. The food is delicious, and now I'm never hungry. But I don't want to be king. Every day is the same. Pudding Lane is more fun.